Okay, welcome everyone. We're in week 3 of our Get Lean 2016 program. I hope everyone did okay with the storm over the weekend. We had probably 1.5 feet of snow here in central New Jersey. I'm sure other parts of New Jersey got hit equally as hard in Long Island. And I know Washington, D.C., certain areas of Washington, D.C. had almost 3 feet of snow. I have a friend who was supposed to be attending a conference in Washington on Wednesday, and they already canceled the conference because no one was able to get in with their flights. So that could be a real problem with this, planning things in the winter. I'm going down to Baltimore this Friday and Saturday for a conference, a 2-day conference. So it looks like I'm going to have some good weather driving down and being able to get around. Susan's just going to be in the other room. She's going to give me a thumbs up if there's any problems with the audio and the visual. We've been having a couple problems over the last couple of weeks. I don't know why, but I know 2 weeks ago my internet just went out, so that was the problem. It wasn't on your end; it was my end. And I'm just killing a little time here, waiting for everybody to join in. Tonight we're going to be talking, obviously you can see on the screen, we're going to be talking about sleep and hormones. And let me just make sure. I'm going to put my phone on vibrate only so it doesn't ring in the middle of the presentation. And Susan communicates with me. She'll send me a text to let me know that you guys can hear this well. And the reason we spend so much time talking about sleep is when I talk to new clients in the hierarchy of needs of what they need to do first, second, third, fourth, and fifth, the first thing I always talk about is sleep, because if sleep is off, nothing else is going to work. Second, of course, I always talk about is hydration. That's a very close second. Then third is nutrition. Fourth is stress management. And then 5 would be exercise. And it's in that order. Because if you don't do the first 4 right, then the 5th one doesn't matter. And as you work up the chain, it's more of the same. You can go a month without eating. You can't go a month without sleeping or drinking water. So there is the hierarchy. I have 7:32. I'm just going to go ahead and start. I know people will be joining in kind of last minute, but that's okay. So sleep and hormones. Insomnia, hormonal imbalance, or sleeplessness is both a cause and an effect. So let's dive in there. So let's talk a little bit first about sleep and hormones. Basically, hormone imbalance resulting from perimenopause, menopause, adrenal fatigue, or any of its other symptoms may cause sleeplessness, which in turn worsens hormonal imbalance. So there's a balance between sleep and hormonal balance, and you need hormonal balance to sleep, and you need sleep to balance your hormones. So it's a symbiotic relationship here. Sleeplessness also has many other non-hormonal related causes. These hormonal and non-hormonal causes of insomnia include chronic stress, night sweats, adrenal fatigue, anxiety, and dietary habits. So I'll kind of delve in on all of those. And here was some poor guy with his 2 cups of coffee just trying to stay awake during the day. Isn't it amazing how sometimes people have trouble staying awake during the day and have trouble falling asleep at nighttime? That's really kind of bizarre, but it happens, and that's why we're talking about it. Insomnia in women causes hormonal imbalance and worsens the symptoms of menopause because the body needs sleep for the body's hormones to do their job properly. Sleep is absolutely essential for repair and rejuvenation. Poor sleep habits can predispose people to early death by way of obesity, heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. So all 4 of these could be directly related back to lack of sleep. Now, hormones have no chance to do their healing work without sleep. When you lose sleep, you really can't catch up. Your hormones just don't spring back like that. Sleeping less than you need affects at least 10 different hormones, causing them to shift and disrupt appetite, fertility, mental health, as well as cardiac health. Sleep is essential to maintain proper hormonal balance and health. Insomnia hormones include estrogen and testosterone. So let's break into those two real quick. So hopefully I can make you guys understand where I'm coming from. Now, estrogen is a sleep maintaining hormone. It is common to have an estrogen deficiency in your perimenopause and menopause. And when your body is not producing enough natural estrogen, your ability to get a full night's sleep suffers as a result. Now, also, a lack of testosterone is also an issue for women. Diminished testosterone is linked with snoring and sleep apnea. And the definition of sleep apnea is a repetitive interruption of breath during sleep. And I'll spend a couple slides on sleep apnea in a few minutes, and I have some personal stories to share with that. So developing healthy sleep habits also helps prevent insomnia. Developing a bedtime routine and going to sleep around the same time each night helps your body form good sleep tendencies. It's also a good idea to remove distractions or anything likely to disturb your sleep from your bedroom. This could include a television or pets. Now, some of us like to sleep with our pets, like Susan, obviously with her cat, who basically sleeps on her pillow, and Susan sleeps quite fine, so that's not a problem. But what about the television, and what about electronics? Well, there's the pineal gland. It's back behind the eyes, and it is very photosensitive. Some people are more photosensitive than others. Okay, I typically can fall asleep with a TV on because I close my eyes and the light doesn't bother me, but I don't try to do my iPhone before I go to bed or try to keep the lights on. Now, I'm not that photosensitive. I could sleep in a lightly lit room, and I really do sleep well. Susan, however, cannot tolerate any light at all. Matter of fact, if there's a street light that's shining too bright through the window, or if the moon is shining through the window, it really actually disturbs her sleep. And this isn't something made up. This is something real. If I come in at nighttime, I have to be careful about turning lights on because it'll wake her up. And then she has a real tough time falling back to sleep. So these are things that you know about people. You have to try to protect them so that you don't wake them up, because once they're up, sometimes they're up for hours. So it's important you understand this about yourself as well. Okay. Though it seems strange, it's important to get up and walk around when you find that you're tossing and turning and having a hard time getting to sleep. This is because it's important not to allow your body or your mind to associate your bed with sleeplessness. So I know a lot of times I'll get up. What puts me back to sleep is going downstairs and turning on the TV. It's the noise. I think it's really, that just helps me lull me back to sleep. Susan sometimes gets up and cleans the entire kitchen because that helps her to get the whatever's keeping her up. It helps her to focus on not thinking about those things, and obviously it helps her fall back to sleep. So that's why she put the picture of the woman cleaning the kitchen, because that's what she does. Now, relief from insomnia and balanced hormones provides several benefits. Sound sleep grants a reduced risk of high blood pressure, diabetes, obesity, and depression. So we have to try to work. If you have insomnia, we have to try to rectify it. We have some methods we're going to talk about in a few minutes. Now, when testosterone is balanced, slow wave or deep sleep is easier to achieve. If you sleep enough each night, you can lose weight as a result of a decrease in your cortisol level. We're going to talk about cortisol a little bit more in detail in a few minutes, but just know a couple things from this slide before I move on. Okay, a lot of times guys especially have low testosterone levels. You'll see TV commercials for it. They call it low T. Okay, now testosterone is one of the hormones that's influenced by a couple things. It's influenced by our diet. It's also influenced by our activity. So if you're getting up in the morning, I'm painting a little picture here. You just work with me here for just 1 minute. You get up in the morning and you have a bagel for breakfast, and then you drive to work and you sit at your desk all day long, and then you have some pizza for lunch. or maybe some pasta for lunch. And then in the afternoon, you have like a candy bar, and you go home at night and you have a big pasta dinner with Italian bread and salad, and your protein levels are real low over the course of the day, and you sat a lot, it should be no surprise to you that you develop low T in your 40s and 50s, because you're not stressing the body. You're not giving the body any reason to release testosterone at a copious level. So what's the big problem? Well, a lot of people run to the doctor. Doctor does their blood tests. Says, you know, your free testosterone is really low. I'm going to give you something to supplement your testosterone. Okay, so that's like putting and you hear me say this all the time, that's like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. It doesn't do anything. Okay, the problem is, if your body is not requiring a lot of testosterone to function, and you're pushing extra testosterone into your body, and usually it's like a gel that you put on your skin or under your arms, and you have it like as a roll-on type thing. The problem is, if they're not giving you an aromatase inhibitor as well, a lot of the testosterone that you're putting on will be converted to estrogen, and then you start to take on female sex characteristics, and that's not good. So just giving someone testosterone is not the answer to their sleep problems or their lack of testosterone in other areas. What's some other problems with low testosterone? You have low energy, low muscle mass, increased body fat, all that kind of stuff, okay? So we kind of talked a little bit about testosterone. So the real cure there is to watch your sugar intake and also start exercising. That should fix your testosterone levels. Now here's the other thing. The other thing from this slide is cortisol levels, okay? Cortisol is not a villain that people make it out to be. Cortisol has a very specific function, especially when it comes to sleep. During the middle of the night, when your blood sugar starts to drop a little lower, your brain starts to say, hey, I need more sugar, okay? I can't function like this. So cortisol is instrumental in breaking protein down and converting it to glucose for the purpose of feeding your brain and nervous system. So without cortisol, you can't break protein down. That term we use for breaking the protein down, you've heard me say this before, is gluconeogenesis. Glucose is sugar, neo is new, genesis is creation. So it's the creation of new sugar. Very simple. Happens in the liver. So if you have low cortisol levels, you can't do that process. So your brain's not going to throw in the towel and say, okay, we're done. The brain needs to function, otherwise you die. So your cortisol levels can start to rise, which in essence increases your stress hormones, which in turn wakes you up. It wakes you up to feed, because if you haven't eaten and your blood sugar is real low, you're going to wake up and start walking around, and your brain's saying, go find something to eat. And a lot of times we do that. Now, for those who compete, like in wrestling or bodybuilding or anything where you have a weight limit, this can happen because you're on such a low-calorie diet, you're over-exercising. Remember we talked about the eat less, exercise more, and how that sabotages you and causes metabolic compensation, metabolic resistance, could lead to metabolic damage, okay? This is all part and parcel to your calorie intake and your sleep. So you're starting to see how this all kind of works together. It's very, very important that you get your sleep and that your blood sugar is balanced so that you don't have high levels of cortisol. And we got some remedies for that I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. Furthermore, greater sleep length is associated with a reduced incidence of breast cancer, and people who nap for 30 minutes at least 3 times a week had a 37% lower chance of heart attack. Maybe we should bring back siestas. We're so type A as Americans, we're probably never going to go for that. But the rest of the world seems to have a lock on that. So maybe there's something to it. Susan will talk about going home to meditate. That's her way of saying, I need 30 minutes to close my eyes. And if it works, we should do it. Okay, so let's talk about neurological repair during sleep. Some experts believe sleep gives neurons used while we're awake a chance to shut down and repair themselves. Without sleep, neurons may become so depleted in energy or so polluted with byproducts of normal cellular activities that they begin to malfunction. Okay? Sleep also gives the brain a chance to exercise important neural connections that might otherwise deteriorate from lack of activity. So there's things that are going on while you're sleeping that are different from when things are awake. Now, let's talk a little bit about depleted in energy or so polluted with byproducts. One of the things that science has shown us is that while you're sleeping, your brain cells actually shrink just enough to increase the circulation of cerebral spinal fluid. And what do? It back flushes your brain basically to help to remove a lot of the products of normal cellular activity. So I thought that was pretty cool. So while you're sleeping, your brain basically back flushes itself and cleans out a lot of the byproducts. I thought that was pretty cool when I found that out. I only learned that a few years ago. So they didn't teach me everything in graduate school. So it's important that we allow our body to go through both neurological repair and, of course, soft tissue repair also happens when we sleep. Let's talk about something called sleep apnea and insomnia in men. We talked a lot about the women. Let's talk a little bit about the men here. The cause of insomnia in men often varies significantly from the causes of insomnia in women. Low testosterone associated with andropause, or the male menopause, can contribute to sleep apnea in men, leading to insomnia or sleeplessness. All right, so what is sleep apnea? Sleep apnea is an interruption of or difficulty breathing during sleep. It affects approximately 9% of adult males and is more common in obese males. The inhibited breathing and loud snoring common of sleep apnea tends to disrupt sleep many times throughout the night. So let's pause on this slide for a minute because this I have a lot of personal experience with. Okay, there's a couple of things that are going on with sleep apnea. You literally stop breathing. Now, what you can do is you can go for what's called a sleep study. And what they do is they put you in a room, it's like a hotel room, and they wire you all up and they put a band around your chest so they know when your chest is expanding and contracting so you're breathing. And of course they do the EKG and all that. And the first time I had this done, I stopped breathing over 100 times during the course of the night. And the longest time I went without actually taking a breath was over 30 seconds. So I had some pretty significant sleep apnea. And this is not because of obesity. I have a lot of soft tissue in my palate that collapses or relaxes when I'm sleeping, and it actually closes off my breathing path. And this could be something that eventually could lead to an early death. So thank God I live in 2010, 2015, 16, whatever. And there's something called a CPAP machine. And I want everybody to close their eyes for a second, and I want you to imagine something. Back in the day when we were little kids and we had that paper straw and we put it in the milkshake or the malted, and we tried to drink the milkshake through the malted, the paper straw would get real wet, and what would happen to it when you're trying to draw the malted or the milkshake through the straw? It would collapse, and you couldn't get it anymore. So you end up taking the straw out, throwing it aside, and you just drink it like you're drinking a glass of water. Or you get a plastic straw that wouldn't collapse. Okay, well, that same thing happens when you're breathing and your breathing passages collapse down. It actually shuts off, and it gets worse the harder you try to breathe because you're causing that negative pressure, which causes the breathing passages to collapse. So what a CPAP machine does, you wear it over your nose, it puts positive air pressure through the nasal passages down to the lungs, and it maintains an open airway. Okay, now how do you know if you have sleep apnea without being diagnosed? I can give you a couple things that definitely would indicate that you have a problem. First of all, if you're married or you live with someone and they tell you snore really loud, and then sometimes you stop breathing and you can kind of hear them wake themselves up to kind of catch their breath. Excuse me, oh, I'm getting tired talking about sleep. That's a very strong indicator that you probably have a possibility of having sleep apnea. The other thing is if you wake up in the morning and you're really, really thirsty, okay, you probably was sleeping with your mouth open. You're being a mouth breather, okay? That's another very strong indication. Or if you wake up in the morning and you feel like you're hungover and you didn't have anything to drink the night before, that's a real strong indication of you have sleep apnea. And last but not least, if you fall asleep, and especially if you're on the couch, okay, and you start dreaming that you can't breathe and you're trying to move and you can't move and you're trying to force yourself to wake up, okay, that's called sleep paralysis. And that is a really bad side effect of sleep apnea. And that's typically when people can get into a lot of trouble, because if you're trying to wake yourself up and you know that you're not breathing and you're trying to move and you can't move because you have sleep paralysis, that can get real dangerous. So let me end with one story about someone you may all know. There was a very famous football player named Reggie White. He played for the Philadelphia Eagles, and he went on to play with the Packers, and he won a Super Bowl with the Packers. Well, my friend Will was working with him after he retired, and Reggie had ballooned up over 400 pounds. And Will said to him, you know, you have sleep apnea, you really need to be treated for this. And he chose not to be treated. And Reggie died in his early 40s of a massive heart attack. And he died at nighttime. So it's very possible that he had such severe sleep apnea that he had a massive heart attack and died. And that's not the first person this has happened to. Okay, I know other people who've died from early cardiac incidents in their 40s and in late 40s, early 50s, and it could be due to sleep apnea. So this is something very serious that you just don't want to say, oh, he's just a bad snorer. It's very easy to go for a sleep study and determine what could be useful to you. So if anybody has any questions or concerns with that, please reach out to me. Like I said, I have a lot of experience with this. When testosterone levels are in their optimum range, so slow wave or deep sleep is easier to achieve. We talked about that with women. Thus, there's an improvement in sleep in various ways when testosterone levels are optimal in men. So another good reason to watch your blood sugar and exercise. Insomnia in men resulting from low testosterone and sleep apnea can lead to several other problems, including fatigue, reduced insulin sensitivity, I'll go back to that one in a second, low human growth hormone levels, and high cortisol levels. Now, how can fatigue really be a problem? Well, if you're getting up in the morning and you're really tired, you get in the car and you're driving to work and you could fall asleep on your way to work, next thing you know, you're getting into a car accident, and that could be real bad. Second is reduced insulin sensitivity. What they're talking about insulin sensitivity is we're talking about the muscle, not the fat cells. Your fat cells are always sensitive to sugar, and they will gladly take any excess sugar that has to be floating by them. We're talking about muscle. So if the muscle becomes insensitive to insulin and the sugar is not getting into the cell to be burned and it's backing up, a couple things are going to happen here. First is your muscle is going to be looking for sugar that it can't get. The sugar starts to back up. The fat cells say, hey, no problem, I'll take on this excess sugar. And the liver starts producing high levels of VLDL type cholesterol. So that's a real problem. We don't want to go down the diabetic route. The next thing on the slide was low human growth hormone levels. If you're not sleeping, you're going to have very low secretion levels of HGH. And we get a lot of HGH at nighttime. Why? Because we're doing maintenance and repair. So what helps to repair the body is human growth hormone. So we have to make sure we get our sleep so we can do our tissue repair. And high levels of cortisol, we talked about that already with regards to creating new sugar to feed the brain and nervous system. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about cortisol. I just want to make sure I'm on the right slide. Okay, so cortisol, the stress hormone, will increase with prolonged insomnia because of the stress in the body. Constant high levels of cortisol can create a hormonal pattern that further reduces testosterone production. Okay, so there's a double-edged sword with cortisol. It can also lead to adrenal fatigue, which often worsens the fatigue and the insomnia. So you can see how we're getting into a real bad situation. You're not sleeping, your cortisol is going up, your testosterone's going down, leading to adrenal fatigue, and it could actually make your insomnia a whole lot worse. So not sleeping could make everything a whole lot worse. So again, human growth hormone is naturally made in the first 90 minutes of sleep. Therefore, if your sleep is disrupted, your growth hormone production is reduced. This can lead to lower levels of testosterone and lower lean body mass. Sleep is also very important for proper insulin sensitivity and glucose control. We just mentioned that. If sleep is disrupted, the body stops utilizing insulin as effectively, and the body begins to need more and more insulin to control blood sugar. This leads to weight gain and a pre-diabetic state that, if not well managed, will lead to type 2 diabetes. So again, we talked about sleep apnea. Let's kind of wrap this up. It's obstructed breathing due to too much tissue, as seen in obesity, or decreased muscle tone, which may be seen with low T. This inhibits the airflow to the mouth and nose, which causes snoring and decreased ability for adequate oxygenation during sleep. As a result, men often wake up numerous times during the night and rarely achieve a deep sleep. So what can we do to help people sleep better? I got some suggestions here. First and foremost, on worst case scenario, especially with men, and sleep apnea tends to happen more in men than women. I'm not sure why, but it just does. Really going for a sleep study would be the first step in getting some help from specialists. Now, if you live in central New Jersey, there's some really great places. They're all covered with insurance. So there's no reason not to have this taken care of, okay? And it really does affect your life. It affects your ability to work. It affects your ability to go out and have fun, play golf, all that kind of stuff, exercise. If you're really fatigued, you don't feel like exercising, right? So if you don't exercise, what did we just talk about? You're going to have poor insulin sensitivity with your muscles. You're going to have low T. You're going to have low human growth hormone. And it's going to affect your self-esteem. It's going to affect your mental state. So we really need to get that fixed. Now, for those who have some occasional problems with insomnia, let's talk about some things we can work with. First is melatonin. It's a natural hormone that helps to regulate the sleep-wake cycle of circadian rhythms. Find a supplement that combines both melatonin with 5-HTP and L-theanine. And one of the products we use is an ID Life Sleep Strip. Now, the reason we advocate that is this. L-theanine and 5-HTP does what? It helps to lower cortisol levels, okay? If you lower cortisol levels, your body will naturally produce more melatonin. So we have a product here that gives you a little melatonin kick, but more importantly, it helps to control your cortisol levels. Now, why is Sleep Strip versus a pill? Okay, what do we know? If you take a pill, it's got to get into your stomach, it's got to get into your small intestines. From there, it's absorbed through something called the hepatic portal system. It sends everything that goes in your mouth basically gets shunted to your liver, okay? Except for alcohol, that's absorbed directly from the stomach lining. But for the most part, everything that you ingest has to go down into the small intestine, has to be shunted to the liver, and the liver decides what comes back out. So if you're taking a sleep aid, okay, that may take an hour or more than an hour for it to actually get into your bloodstream before it has an effect. With the sleep strips, they go under your tongue. That's called sublingual. Same place that people who have heart conditions put their nitroglycerin. Why? Because there's a huge capillary bed under your tongue. The sleep strips will dissolve and will be absorbed immediately into your bloodstream and will become effective within the first 15 minutes. So we tell people, you want to fall asleep in 15 minutes? Take your sleep strip. Okay. What other things can you do to help with proper sleep? Well, you can use a sleepy time or a chamomile tea. Okay. Another thing I recommend is branched chain amino acids. These will break down into glucose to feed the brain and nervous system while you're sleeping, to avoid your brain from waking you up to feed. It helps to keep cortisol levels from escalating and waking you up. So we use a product called Lean. It's a capsule form. Okay, you take them a couple hours before you go to bed, and they get into your bloodstream. And when your blood sugar starts to drop down, instead of your body raising cortisol levels, to start breaking down proteins, the branched chain amino acids will convert quickly to glucose to feed your brain and nervous system and stop your cortisol from going up and help to keep your blood sugar balanced while you sleep. Okay, so that's sleep strips and lean. I got one more for you before we go any further with the ID Life products. You can also use GABA. It activates the major calming neurotransmitters, promoting relaxation, reducing anxiety. But the body has difficulty absorbing supplements containing synthesized GABA. That's why experts recommend what? Theanine, which the body can easily absorb and utilize to help boost GABA levels. So the ID Life strips have L-theanine in them. So there you go. There's your answer with that. You can also use valerian root and also magnesium, along with contributing to a good night's sleep. This light silvery metallic element is an often looked nutrient that helps maintain normal muscle and nerve function, keeps heart rhythm steady, supports a healthy immune system, and keeps bones strong. Magnesium also helps to regulate blood sugar levels and promotes normal blood pressure, according to the National Institute of Health. Lack of magnesium inhibits nerve cell communication, which leads to cell excitability. So, how do we kind of wrap this whole thing up? Well, my cat helped us out with this. How do you fall asleep and stay asleep? We have 3 products that all work hand in hand. The lean is your branched chain amino acids. There's no stimulants in lean. That's the biggest misconception. Everybody's like, oh, that's a fat burner. It's not a fat burner. Lean is designed to control sugar cravings. How does that happen? Because it's a branched chain amino acid. It will break down into glucose to feed your brain and nervous system and stop you from having sugar cravings. The hydrate is high in magnesium. I keep a little mason jar of that next to my bed at nighttime. So if I wake up in the middle of the night, I can just take a shot of hydrate and help me, fall back to sleep. And I take 1 sleep strip, and I do this every night before I go to bed. And I use my CPAP machine because I have a sleep illness. Now, a lot of people say, well, why don't you have the surgery, Mike? I heard about the surgery where they cut the tissue in your soft palate. Well, if any of you have ever had your tonsils out, okay, you may not remember it because a lot of us were only 2 or 3 or 4 years old when we had it done. Go back and ask your mom what you were like when you had your tonsils out and you didn't sleep for 3 days. And everything you tried to eat or drink caused excruciating pain. That's the number one reason. But the truth of the matter is I've talked to a few doctors about this, and they're saying the efficacy of that surgery is very poor. So the best treatment system for sleep apnea is the nasal CPAP machine, and I use these other products to help me fall asleep and stay asleep because I'm a business owner and a parent. I have some stress. I'm like the rest of you. Okay, so it helps you fall asleep and stay asleep. So when it comes to sleep wellness and sleep illnesses and sleep problems, I guess you could call me an expert because I live this every day. What are some other helpful hints for sleep? Keep noise and light to a minimum. Use earplugs, window blinds, heavy curtains, or even an eye mask. Make sure the room is cool, below 68 degrees. Small night lights in your bedroom and bathrooms are a good idea so you don't trip. Oh, here's the other thing too I wanted to bring up, because I know this is going to come up as a question. What about some of the pharmaceuticals like Lunesta and Ambien and all that kind of stuff? Okay. All I can tell you is this. I've never tried them, and I never will. I have clients that have come off of those 2 sleep medications using the protocol I just explained to you with the sleep strips and the lean and the hydrate. And here's what they tell me. It works better than the Ambien. It works better than the Lunesta. Okay. If they do wake up in the middle of the night, they don't feel real druggy and they're not afraid to get out of bed and walk down the hall to the bathroom. I have a couple clients that stopped drinking hours before they went to bed because they were afraid to get up at night because they were afraid they were going to pass the bathroom in the hallway and fall down a flight of stairs. And also I have clients that woke up in the living room, in the kitchen, and had no idea how they got there. And I don't have anybody who got in their car and tried to drive when they were on Lunesta, but I have heard of people sleepwalking and doing some real crazy stuff. So it's a lot of experience with 32 years now of clients telling me what works and what doesn't work. So that's my little 30-second commercial on that. Avoid large meals 2 hours before bedtime. A light snack is fine. Most of us eat dinner at 6:30, 7 o'clock. We're not going to bed till 10, so that's not a problem. Obviously, avoid drinking caffeine. Regular exercise like walking will reduce stress hormones and help you sleep better. But don't exercise within 2 hours of bedtime. You may have a lot of trouble falling asleep. I know after I get off these calls, I'm not even exercising. I'm wired. I can't even think about going to bed before 10 o'clock because I get all my positive endorphins going when I'm doing these calls. Also, if when I was a kid playing basketball till 9 o'clock at night, you come home, you're wired, you can't fall asleep. So don't nap late in the afternoon. Like, don't try to take a nap at 5 o'clock. Take that nap at like 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Stop working on any task an hour before bedtime to calm your brain. Don't discuss emotional issues right before bedtime. Oh, obviously the person who originally told me this was never married, but that's another story. Keep pets outside your sleeping area if you can. I can't. I divorced if I couldn't let the cat in the bedroom with us, so I make up. I do the best I can. Make sure your bedroom is well ventilated and at a comfortable temperature, and learn a relaxation technique like meditation or progressive relaxation. And if you want more on that, we can talk more on that. Okay, let's just kind of wrap up here. Not bad, half hour. Okay, remember we talked about keeping your heck in check and what to do. We're in week 3 now, so you should all be pretty good barometers of what your hunger, your energy, and your craving is like. So again, if your heck is in check, you have no hunger, no cravings, good energy, and you're losing fat, don't do anything. Keep doing what you're doing. If your heck is not in check, okay, you're still losing weight, but you can't focus because you're hungry all the time, you have low energy, I don't feel like exercising anymore, my cravings are going up, add 10 grams of fat. Add salad dressing, add half an avocado, have some almonds with your lunch. Get your fat up, okay? Heck is still not in check, take out the fat and add 3 to 5 bites of carbohydrates, like a half a cup of brown rice or half a sweet potato into a meal. If your heck is still not in check, add the fat back in. And if your heck is still not in check, we may need to add 1 to 2 protein snacks a day. That could be like take 1 scoop of your ID Life shake and mix that with some water or some almond milk. Make yourself a protein snack. Take some turkey, wrap it in some lettuce. You can have a little bit of protein and a fat in that snack. For example, you could take like a slice of avocado with some turkey and put that in the wrap. It's important that you keep your heck in check because that's going to allow you to exercise. If you're hungry and you have cravings and you have low energy, it's going to be really very difficult to exercise. Okay, so we really got to work on keeping your heck in check. If your heck is in check but you're not losing weight, remove a carbohydrate in your breakfast or lunch. Increase your walking to an hour a day. Resume an eat less and exercise less model. And move to metabolic workouts and burst training versus traditional workouts. Okay, it's much easier for me to go into Facebook to answer questions. We found that out. Okay, Ernie's saying we're okay. Ernie was saying I had a lot of problems tonight. Oh well, I'll check the video. Everyone's going to get a replay, so that's not a problem. I'm going to jump into Facebook to answer questions. I want everybody to have a great night. And again, any questions about this? I'm kind of an expert at this, so I want to be able to help people. And you can definitely share this message with anybody you want.